displayed. Yeah.
We are live. Very happy to introduce J.M. Hall. Do you want to start us off with an introduction to your books?
Yes. Oh gosh, when you introduce your own book, what is it? Well, there's a bit of a story because people go on about cozy crime and they have this whole thing about cozy crime. And having actually been on the receiving end of cozy crime, long story short, my darling dad had dementia and was frauded really badly in one of the most beautiful Yorkshire villages you can imagine. Having been on the end of it, I would say crime is anything but cozy. However, having said that, we went through this awful experience with poor old dad. And because we failed to get any redress about it, I then started writing it. And as I was just saying to Kaz just now, I have primary school teachers as my protagonists simply because that is how I have sort of explored my adult life working in primary schools through the kind of wisdom and understanding and perception of older, much wiser women. So the book, A Spoonful of Murder, the first one, you've got these three retired primary school teachers who meet every Thursday in Thirst Garden Centre. They don't meet on a Monday or a Tuesday because that's when they do jobs, and they don't meet on a Friday because that's the end of the week. They meet on a Thursday. And in the first book, they're having coffee and they meet their former nursery nurse. And it becomes clear she's suffering from dementia. And she starts saying things like, it would be better if I was dead. And they came to the house and they said I should be dead. And then 2 weeks later, she's found dead. And then in the second book, A Pen Dipped in Poison, we're back in their old primary school again. And somebody is sending anonymous letters to the staff. And all these horrible poison pen letters are cropping up in registers and book corners and handbags and what have you. So the second novel is about that.
Marvellous. And there's a third one coming out.
The third one, I was about to say with great confidence it's coming out March 14th. However, I got a contact from the publisher today saying, oh, we've decided to move it back to April the 11th. Is that all right? And of course you go, yes, no, that's absolutely fine. You're publishing my book. So, that's good with me. The third one is they've got a friend of theirs who's waiting on Thirsk railway station. And it is a really foggy January night. And I don't know if anyone's been to Thirsk railway station. It's one of those where they've ripped the middle out of it so the trains can go fast through it. And there's just two bleak little platforms at the far side. And a woman is waiting for the train and surprise, surprise, it's cancelled due to a staff shortage. And so she realizes she's got an hour on this station. And being of a certain age like myself, she realizes she probably needs the loo. So she goes out of the station and down this foggy little side road. And she sees a light. And strange thing, there's a charity shop. She didn't know it was there. She goes into this charity shop and is surrounded by this noise, this tick, 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 tick of a clock. And she sees the clock, but when she looks close, she sees the hands aren't moving. And then the lights in this shop dim. And a voice says, why did you do it? At which point she freaks out, runs out, goes back to the station. But the next day she decides she needs to go back to this charity shop. And when she goes back, it's gone. No charity shop. A missing charity shop. So that's the third one. And it's called A Clock Stopped Dead. And it's coming out in April. And it has a nice bright green cover. So I've got a blue cover, a red cover, and a bright green cover.
Which is brilliant.
Yeah, and the covers are nothing to do with me. They are not my design, someone else. You just think, oh my God, that's wonderful. That is so good. But I can't take any of the credit for the covers.
Just the content in between.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, there is that little detail. I have to say, there is that small little bit. Yeah.
Before
Yes.
we move on to like my other questions, got to say I'm a teacher, but I'm in awe of primary teachers. Like that is not a job. I think like I
No,
teach
but
like
Kaz,
primary school.
Kaz, I'm in awe of you. I would be terrified going into a school full of hormonal teenagers with attitude. They'd eat me alive. I can cope with 5-year-olds clinging to my leg. That's absolutely fine. But mind you, the nativity play yesterday, the first one I've not had any contact with, seeing as I was saying to Kaz, I finished 7 weeks ago. And of course, Mary dropped Jesus on his head.
Oh no.
Yeah, Jesus went boom. And he went off the stage. So what do you teach then, Cass?
Science.
Right. You see, that's it. I wouldn't know where to begin with that. I think it's a very good job. Otherwise, everyone would want to teach one or not teach the other or what have you. But yeah, no, you respect Kaz, because I couldn't do what you do.
Well, yeah, we'll have mutual respect then, because
Mutual respect.
I wouldn't be primary.
I think, yes. And I write this radio series. Sorry, I'm going off crime here, but I'm fortunate enough to write this radio series about a secondary school called Trust. And I'm just writing one now, and it's about an Ofsted inspection. And my goodness me, I'm getting some angst out of my system.
You must, with 40 years of teaching, have some really good Ofsted inspection stories, though.
Well, Ofsted only came in really about 15 years into my tenure. And so I have been through about 6. And I had one amazing one where I'd gone in the day before as a supply teacher, because a class teacher, God bless her, had sort of collapsed into my arms the night before and passed out. And I'd done this lesson and I got an outstanding for my piano playing. Well, believe you me, Les Dawson is a better pianist than me. And I just thought, well, this is ridiculous. So I got this outstanding for my piano playing. And she said, yes, yeah, I could see the lesson dipped slightly, but you have amazing plenaries, Mr. Hall. So that was what. And then there's been this awful case, this poor woman, Ruth Perry. And you see, I think we've all got a story like that. I had someone who came into my class who did not like my teaching, who was very negative, very critical. It was the day after my mother had been diagnosed with cancer. I was absolutely on the edge. And you just think there are better ways of doing this. There are better ways. And believe you me now, for like, as you will know, Cass, 2 years before an Ofsted inspection, the air becomes thick with, well, what Ofsted are looking for, and Ofsted are looking for this, and this is what Ofsted, the Ofsted window creaks open, and my goodness me, it's an icy blast comes through it. So where are you on the Ofsted cycle, Kaz, dare I ask?
No, we're post at my school, but I've also worked at the kind of schools where the Ofsted inspectors quake in fear at the students.
Oh, now that would be good. Yeah, no, I wouldn't mind seeing that. And I have to say, for complete fairness, our last Ofsted, which was literally 3 weeks before lockdown, was lovely. A lovely, lovely woman who was very, very supportive and diagnostic and constructive. And yeah, so yes.
So there must be nothing to fear now you've moved on to being an author. Do you quake in fear at at reviews or anything?
Oh, well, number one, I'm still on the governors, so Ofsted has not quite gone out of my life. Oh, but no, nothing to fear. Oh my goodness me. I never dare read reviews, ever. I dare not read reviews. I used to write for the theatre, and I can tell you every word of every negative review I ever got. And when you read positive reviews, you think, well, they're just being nice, really, they're just sort of, So I daren't read reviews. And I think the thing with creativity is that you never know whether you're going to be able to do it from one day to the next. And when I sit down in the morning, and I do a lot of writing longhand, so I've either got my pad in front of me or I don't know if I'm going to do it. Do you get that with teaching, Kaz? You can never take it for granted. You can go in and you can never be sure how the lesson will go. Well, I can never be sure how the writing day will go. But I suppose the thing I don't fear is now I got my teacher pension. It's worth hanging on there for, Kaz. Trust me. I got my teacher pension. And I think, well, do you know what? If, you know, I'm nearly at the end of my 4-book contract, and if it wasn't renewed, fine, I'd write something else. That doesn't hold any fear for me. Being judged, no, because I always found, you see, when I was writing the first novel, I was a full-time deputy head, dealing with my poor old dad over in Thirsk. And I would get up at 5:10 in the morning and have my sort of meditation time. And then whatever time I had till I got my lift, I would write. And just in that little moment, I was completely safe because all the dreadful things were things I was doing, I was in control of. And I always see writing as that. And when you're writing that novel, it's going to win the Booker Prize and the Nobel Peace Prize and the goodness knows what else and whatever. But yeah, I think fear does come with creativity because you can't take it for granted.
They do seem to be well received though. So beyond book 4, do you have ideas for like it continuing or?
Yes. Book 3, I have to say, and here is a mighty spoiler. Ooh. No, book 4. Book 4, mighty spoiler, because not even the publishers know this yet, is it starts off with a man who's found dead in a holiday cottage, and, spoiler, he's an Ofsted inspector. And I was thinking, do you know what? I haven't got any ideas for book 5 or even book 6. And then suddenly I got 2 ideas. So I would then feel okay. I'd feel comfortable doing that. But when I write Trust for the radio, the school series, it's not like they say, would you like to write some more? They say, right, you got another series. So we just need 3 scripts by, and you go, yeah, okay, that's fine. That's not a problem. And you think, what am I going to, what am I going to write? So I have got ideas. But having said that, I do want to write other stuff because when you stop teaching, you've suddenly got this great freedom. Busy, I'm not saying you've got lots of time, but you've got a freedom. And it is just wonderful to be able to write the stories I want to write.
So what other kind of things would you write?
Oh, okay, this is mine. I'm going to write me LGBT novel because there's this wonderful renaissance in LGBT writing, but it's all about young people. It's all about people who don't go, ow, when they get out of bed in the morning. So I want to write, that's a novel I want to write. I want to write my novel about the Lake District where I go to. What was the other? Oh yeah, there's an audio company that does Doctor Who audios, and I want to write a Doctor Who. I do because I love Doctor Who, so I want to write that. And who knows? I do like writing the nativity play for school as well. That is always a great one. So yeah, whatever.
Even if Jesus gets dropped on his head.
Oh, Jesus dropped on his head. Yes. Well, that wasn't my nativity play. Mind you, you know, it would be. Mine was the Grumpy Cockerel. Cock-a-doodle, don't mess up my stable. And that was great. Loved writing that.
Does writing scripts help with sort of doing novels?
Yeah, completely. Because for years I wrote plays. Not very successfully, but I wrote them. And what you learn with writing play, particularly writing radio play, is an economy of action. And my brilliant radio producer, Gary Brown, says, he sums it up as arrive late, leave early. So I got used to starting a chapter right when the action happens. And very often when I read people's plays and scripts and things, you think, oh, hang on, you read a bit and you think like 3 pages in, you think, right, this is where it started. So it gives you a really good sense of storytelling and of telling the story in an economical sort of way. And when I look back at a lot of my plays, early ones, they were great, big, huge, bits of exposition where, that'd be the bit where everyone got the program out and we're going, oh, look, she was in Juliet Bravo. And I like to think with the writing, I haven't learned to avoid it, but I have learned I'm better at seeing where I do it and thinking, right, okay, I can cut all of that out.
Do you find that, because I think it's quite comedic throughout so far, like I'm reading a Spoonful of Poison and there's genuinely quite chuckle some moments throughout. Did they just come naturally, or?
Well, like when you're in the staff room and it's an horrendous day and everyone just starts laughing, it's kind of like that, really. There is the one thing the one commonality out of all the schools I've worked in is having a laugh. And I think I'm quite naturally, well, there's 2 things. My grandpa had a huge gift for summing people up, and he would describe people. He had some amazing phrases for people, like nice chap, but nobody likes him. And another one he would say, my grandmother used to say something was a thundering cheek. And my Auntie Catherine, God love her, could just nail descriptions of people. And then I grew up absolutely loving Victoria Wood. Of all the early deaths, she's the one I mourn, simply because I would love to hear her talking about old age and getting older, because she was just genius. And Alan Bennett, of course, because there's that really forensic sort of humorous detail, which is like a heartbeat away from tragedy, sadness, darkness. And then when I think about the programs I like as well, I loved The Golden Girls. I thought that was really wonderful. And I loved Dinner Ladies, that sort of female ensemble. So, yeah, I would say, to me, I don't know, looking back, I think the programs that have got sort of a female cast, am I making a huge generalization here? I think women are better at laughing at themselves or not taking life so seriously. Is that wrong? I don't know. But I do know in our staff room they are. So anyway, yeah. So that's where the humour comes from.
I was just hearing you talking about people summing people up really early made me think of Paula, who was like, I don't want to talk ill of people, but then is going to come out with a zinger.
She was my dad. He used to commute from Hornsey to Hull before some clown ripped up the railway lines and decided it was a good idea not to. He used to get the train, and there was this woman in the train. I won't say her name. She won't be alive now, but who knows? Her family may be around. And she used to go, well, I'm not one to talk about people, but at which point someone's character would be thoroughly shredded. Yeah.
I got to that line in the book and I was just like, yeah, I think everybody knows someone like that, don't they?
Oh, good. I am glad. I'm glad there's a sort of universality about it.
I also want to know if some of the crazy things that they've come up with in the past are based on real life, because there's a thing like there's one with the sage green top, I've forgotten her name, who she was saying that she covered a climbing frame with red paper to be like
Pat, yes. Oh, Gordon Bennett, the politics surrounding red poster paper in the primary school, believe you me, Yeah, because you get people who sort of go in and help themselves to the lot, and then you come to do a fire engine and there's no red paper. Oh yes, I've known people, great rivalry with classroom constructions. You know, you've got a reading bus in one classroom and a giant's castle in another, and yeah, all of it is, all the primary school stuff is stuff that's happened, you know.
Marvelous. I don't have any giant constructions in my classroom.
No, well, I don't know. I would think I wouldn't dare have a lot of teenagers going into a reading bus. I think they'd probably joyride it out of the room or something.
I do have a Jurassic World dinosaur kind of cut out at the back of my room though.
Fantastic. But you know, it's stuff like that kids respond to. They just like, you know, they like. I do. If you go into a learning environment where there's a huge cutout dinosaur, you think, yeah, okay, this is all right.
Yes, could be something entertaining going on, isn't there? You'd hope.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I just because what I've liked the most about the book so far, and I've not finished, so we're not going to give away
All right. Mm.
any spoilers. It's been a busy week at work.
Oh, I don't know how you read in term time, by the way. I've only really started reading now. I've stopped teaching. So, you know, absolute full marks for, you know, even getting so far through it.
No, but it's brilliant. And what I like the most is the relationship between the sort of women who are doing the kind of investigation, aren't they? Because I don't think
Yeah.
they've fully blown admitted that they're thoroughly investigating, but they are.
Yeah. That was a kind of a dilemma because a few years ago, I had my gallbladder out. This isn't turning into a medical story, but the fact was I had 2 guilt-free weeks off school. You know, like when you're off school ill and you stagger out of bed and go to the kitchen and you think, oh, I'm probably well enough to go in, and you feel guilty the rest of the day. Well, once the doctor said you cannot go to work for 2 weeks, you just think, great, wonderful. And I'd got all this stuff taped to watch. I was going to watch the Donmar Warehouse and this documentary on the Brontes and all of that. I watched Murder, She Wrote, every single episode. And what I loved it, absolutely loved it, but I couldn't get my head around the fact that this sort of nice lady of a certain age came across something like 300 murders or something, and it just strained plausibility. And I was thinking, for these people to be the people they are, the people I want to write about, they wouldn't say, right, we're going to set ourselves up in a detective agency. They wouldn't. Murder would be something for the police to solve. And as I've gone on to write the other novels, you realize if there is a murder, a whole trope has to kick in. A whole police investigation, this, that, and the other, has to become part of the mix. So generally, I tend to sort of avoid out and out murders, and they're more like unexplained deaths. Like in the third one, there's a car crash, and they think the person who's crashed the car has been frightened. So how did I get onto that? Yeah, so those first lines in the first book, to investigate a murder, was so far from who they were. That's really true. Yeah, it's only now in the fourth one they're getting their heads around a bit the fact that do you know what, we're just investigating because we're good at it and we like doing it.
But I think there's a lot of what you say about them as people that kind of reads as true for them to be investigating, so them kind of having a natural ability to read people's subtext and all of that kind of stuff. And you're like, I think it makes them feel very real people because they're sort of stumbling into the investigation, and you can kind of understand why they have.
Thank you. I always think really carefully, because, you know, you would have a point where there would be a danger of them saying, look, do you know what, this is really bad. keep right out of this. So in the second one, with the poison pen letters, they investigate it because it's their primary school, it's their old workplace, and people are being really upset. And then in the third one, there is like a young girl whose sister has been killed, and they sort of feel all a bit protective and motherly to her. So I always try and have an absolute reason why they would actually investigate. And of course, in police and in thrillers and stuff, you don't have all of that because it's their job, it's what they do. And it would be weird if they didn't do it. So it is a particular thing to the sort of thing I'm writing, a particular thing to the sort of thing I'm writing, a particular facet to the sort of story I want to tell. That's better.
Any reason why you chose? I mean, I know you know like a lot about Thirsk, but do you think there's any kind of constraints to setting it in a real place?
Oh, well, I chose Thirsk because that was where we used to take. Dad lived near he lived in Rainton, and we used to take him to Thirsk Garden Centre on a Saturday, and it just became, in that really sad, confusing time, the garden centre became our sort of haven, our safe space. And I always thought how wonderful, because there was this round table in the corner and I always wanted to sit at it, but there was always not enough of us. And it just seemed very right to write about it. Is there any constraint setting it in a real place? Well, if you're going to say something's absolutely horrible, you have to make very sure there isn't anything like it in the area. But no, I like it because I like Thirsk. I like this little market town. I think it had a bit of a raw deal because it's where James Herriot set his books, and yet, of course, none of the books have ever been filmed there. They were all belted up 40 miles up into the Dales to film them, and yet round Thirsk it is very, very flat. Between the moors and the Pennines, there's this great flat rolling expanse of the Vale of York, and no, it just seemed to happen. It was Thirsk. If I write the LGBT novel, no, I say if I'm actually writing it, I'm going to set that in Shipley where I live because there isn't anything set in Shipley. But yeah, I think if I was going to write about something in a disparaging way, well, I do quite a lot actually. They're all fake places. And even the nice places, you sort of give different names and things. The only real thing, really, thinking about it, is the garden centre, because the primary school's made up. The village is real. Baldersby Church is real. But anyway, yeah. It's a love letter to mum and dad. That's what it is. It's me remembering them.
Which is a really nice thing. And there's a little nod to the Yorkshire vet occasionally, isn't there, in the...
Yeah, yeah. We have James Herriot World. We have, I think it's in the third one. There's sort of mention of it as well. There's Mrs. Hall's Pantry or something, or some whatever. But yeah.
Would your LGBT novel feature crime as well, or would you go for a kind of romance? Or
oh, it's about a writers group. Honestly, Kaz, I have been part of so many writers groups over the years, as much as them as I have primary school staff rooms, and I want to write about writers group. All these people who are sort of on a journey with their writing and putting themselves into it. So it's about that. Would I write crime in another genre? I might write about a private detective, but I don't really know that world. I got into crime writing because, as I was telling you, my poor old dad had this horrible fraud committed against him. And me and my sister spent a year writing, trying to get redress for this. The shocking thing wasn't actually the fraud, though that was bad enough. It was the bank. The bank, they just didn't want to know. And they sheltered behind this very bland corporate facade. and played all sorts of sneaky little tricks to avoid fessing up or whatever. And that was when my sister said, you should write something about this. And I thought, yeah, I can't see myself writing a radio play about this or a fringe play about this. And that was where Pat, Liz and Thelma were born, out of this awful thing that happened to my dad.
Glad. Did you finally get it sorted after the?
No.
No.
They gave a quarter of the money back as a goodwill gesture, but Dad had been a bank manager for them. He had retired. It was his own bank he'd gone into in a confused state, and they let him transfer all this money out. And then they were saying, oh, well, we thought it was all right and everything. And they didn't. They were covering their backs. So we never got that redress. I think a good thing is banks are so much better about this these days. But no, if I was that sort of person, I could get very bitter about it. But actually, all I have to do is look at the sales figures, and that sort of helps me move on, shall we say.
We've had some hellos. So we've had hellos from Donna, who I think has interviewed you before. Sarah Blackburn, she's a Yorkshire-based lover of books. And Sam has said hi as well.
So hello, Donna. Hello, Sarah. And who was the other one, Kaz?
Sam.
Sam. Pam. Sorry, Pam. Well, brilliant. How wonderful. You're giving up your Friday night to listen to me rambling on. That's absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much.
There's probably a few more people listening as well. They're just the only ones who've written a comment.
Oh, well, you know, thank you. And I tell you something. This is actually the nicest, loveliest bit of the whole crime writing thing, is meeting people virtually and face to face and what have you, and talking. And do you know what? Crime writers are such lovely people. And I think there's a sort of an inverse line. The darker and more twisted the crime, the nicer the person. You know, I know this woman, this lovely woman who lives in Bradford. And some of her stuff I've read has been like hair raising. And she's the sweetest, nicest person I've ever met. So I do think you feel like you're part of a family, particularly when you go to crime writing festivals. So hello, everyone out there. This is hugely appreciated.
I'm running through my mental memory of like Bradford-based crime writers and deciding to know.
I'm going to tell you, because 3 or 4 of her books. She's called Liz Mystery, and she is a great writer, though I think she will be the first to agree that there's some pretty strong stuff in some of her books.
We absolutely adore Liz Mystery.
So I do. Liz Mystery. This is one of my retirement promises. I'm going to meet her for coffee. And there's another writer called Leslie McAvoy, and I'm going to meet her, and Leona Deakin. So I probably won't get any books written because I'll be too busy chatting with crime writers. But no, Liz in particular, she was one of the first people I met in this. And such a lovely lady.
Yeah, Liz is a legend. I will agree with
a legend. That's a good word. A good word, legend. Yes.
We all love her. She's a member of our group.
Oh, is she? Is she watching?
Well, you never know.
She's watching, Liz. If you're watching, I think you rock, Liz. I think you're wonderful. I tell you what it is. In the theatre, there are a lot of people who are quite brittle and fragile about their writing, and I think that makes them less effective at being sort of warm and welcoming. But someone like Liz is so warm and welcoming, it just gives you that confidence. I remember she was on the first panel I ever did, and I'm like, what's everyone going to say? You know, who do you think you are? You can't write, you know. And there was just something about her that put me at my ease. So there we go.
She's good for that.
Yeah.
You're right though. Leslie McAvoy is another one who's a group member.
Right. Hello, Leslie, if you're watching. We did a night at Truman Books in Farsley, which is brilliant. It was It was a crime night. It was about psychopaths, and Leona Deacon and Leslie and I were chatting. To be honest, we chatted for an hour in the green room. We chatted for an hour on the stage. We still had a couple of hours chat left in us. You know, but yeah, great.
That was where we met, the crime night at Farsley.
Of course. And wasn't it wonderful? So many people. It was great. I think Amanda at Truman Books has sort of single-handedly, I don't know what she's done, but I think she sort of single-handedly rejuvenated Farsley with Truman Books.
Yeah, they're a really good bookstore, aren't they? We do a live event in Leeds, and Truman Books come and be our bookseller.
Well, absolutely. And that's something else that's wonderful. I've tumbled into this whole world of indie bookstores, particularly around Yorkshire. The Beverley Bookshop, Darling Reads in Horbury, Truman Books, the Stripy Badger in Grassington, and of course the White Rose Books in Thirst, and my original #1 cheerleader, Little Ripon Bookshop, because my sister used to live in Ripon, and she would go in there, and she would chat to Jill, who owns it, and she would say, "Oh yeah, my brother's trying to write a book," and they were like the first people who read the book and gave me a really nice shout out. So yeah.
What a good sister.
Oh, my sister, wonderful
quality, like sibling.
I think when we were younger, we had, I think she'd be the first day we had our moments, but no, she loves crime writing, and she has, and I sort of talk through my plots with her, because she's a huge fan of the John Dixon Carr, Edmund Crispin, Dorothy L. Sayers, Marjorie Allingham. I am encyclopedic about Agatha Christie. I make no apologies for that. And yeah, particularly with the third one, we really chatted through what had happened when. I think that's one of the biggest challenges about crime writing is that the dark heart of the story, who did what to who and why and where, sometimes when you read it, you get to it and you're like, oh. Whereas with someone like Agatha Christie, or Liz Mystery, or Leslie McAvoy, or Leona Deacon, shout outs, there's always a real beating heart to the story that is very authentic. Like, I watch one on television. I do hope there isn't a TV crime writer watching. And it all hinged around the fact someone had had a heart transplant and had their blood engraved into a diamond. And you're like, oh, right, okay, fair enough. That, you know, it just was a bit far-fetched. And then there was another I watched, and it hinged on the fact there were 3 Arthur Darvilles running around Brighton. You know, hey, some ways that's great, but it was just, yeah. So my sister helps me get to that truth at the heart of a story. And always I have to sort of find a reality, a real story behind it, so I can actually, what I'm writing is based on something that actually happened.
So when you start your book off, do you kind of know that reality, that kind of core of...
Yeah, and that's when I say I've got ideas for book 5 and 6. You've got that reality, you've got that start to it. There's a wonderful TV writer, Farsley, Lisa Holdsworth. Don't know if any of you know her. She's got a series coming out on, oh, Lisa, you're going to hate me. I can't remember what channel it is, but it's about a performing arts school based in Chapeltown. It's going to be brilliant. And she used to write Midsummer Murders. And she always says that you have to work out what actually happened before you even start thinking about the story. You have to work out so-and-so fell in love with so-and-so, decided to kill so-and-so, and they did it like this. You have to work all that out, and then you can start layering it and taking it apart and whatever. Another shout out I wanted to give. I was thinking this is turning into one of those conversations where my mind is shooting in all directions, so I do apologise. There's a new crime writing bookshop opening in York next year.
Oh,
And
really? Cool.
it's called. I'm actually going to I'm going to check on my phone because I do not want to say the wrong name of it. But it's opening in, I think it's opening in February, March time, and it's called Criminally Good Reads, I think. That's why I'm checking. Criminal. No, it's not there. I'm going to search here. Criminally Good Books in York, and it's opening in Colliergate, and that's going to be in about March time. So for anyone who's living in or around York, that is going to be well worth checking out.
It's a perfect place for bookstores, York, isn't it? It's got so many lovely ones.
Absolutely, but this is going to be specifically for us. It's a crime writing bookshop. We can, because all these indie bookshops, which are great, but this one is purely going to be crime. So yeah.
Excellent. I'll be sure to check that out. I love York.
Yeah, I do as well. Yeah.
It's a lovely place to visit.
Yeah, my sister's just moved there. So I used to love going and seeing her in Ripon. Now I love going and seeing her in York. So yes, it's a great place, York.
Your sister for the win. My brother lives in a boring place in Warrington.
Oh, well, I don't know. Depends depends how you get on with them or whatever. You can know lovely people who live. I don't know. I've never been to Warrington. It's the sort of place you pass on the motorway. Maybe Warrington. I don't know about Warrington. I have to say, I can't pass opinion on Warrington. I've never been there.
I feel like it's probably the place that you want to continually pass on the motorway.
I don't know. Sometimes you get some great places that you just sort of stop. You go off the beaten track and you go through it. And then some places you think, oh, yes, well, not for me. But hey.
So are you planning to pop into the new bookstore in York and sign some books?
No, I'm planning to pop in, but not say who I am. Because these poor people opening up a bookstore, are they really going to want someone in coming in with their cardigan draped over their shoulders going, hello, I'm J.M. Hall. I'm waving the wrong hand. I'm J.M. Hall. I'm a crime writer. I don't think they're going to want that. What I would like to do is I've asked them to send me an email so I can send it round to people, the family, Liz Mystery, Leslie McAvoy, Leona Deakin. New writer, of course, you met her, Bella Ellis in Scarborough, in her turret, who writes the Bronte mysteries. And so I would like to tell them about this bookshop so they can reach out to her. But yeah, no, it's a bit like I always feel some people are really good at going into their shops and signing their books and whatever. And I sort of go in and I go, ooh, that's my book. But sneak out again. Only except it's in the works. Here's a tip. If you want to get a pen dipped in poison, it's £2 in the works. And they know who I am in Shipley. So every time I go into the works, they get me to sign copies. So you're nipping down to the dentist or, you're going down to Home Bargains to top up on the cheap shower gel and you go into the works to get something. They get you signing books. Keeps your feet on the ground. That's what it does.
But it's nice that they know you want you to sign the books. I think, and Sam has said this as well, that they probably love you popping into the one in York.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll pop in, but I'm not brilliant at bursting out. I'm all right when I'm talking, but yeah, maybe it's the primary school teacher in me. I sort of think, oh no, shut up, Jonathan.
One of my favorite questions to ask people, especially now because we're kind of at the end of the year, is what have been your reads of the year so far?
Oh, all crime. Because this wonderful thing started happening. They keep sending, people send me crime books, proof copies to endorse and read. So And because it's work, even when I was teaching, I prioritized it. So I had guilt-free reads. So here's some recommendations of books I read and loved that some aren't out yet. One I loved is by someone called Orlando Murrin, and he is a prominent cookery writer person. And he's written a book called Knife Skills for Beginners. And it is the Great British Bake Off meets Then There Were None, basically. And I loved it. I genuinely raced through that. I don't think I read one this year that I didn't love or didn't like, but definitely Knife Skills for Beginners. And I also read the new, the new Richard Osman, the new Robert Thorogoods. I'm clinging gamely onto their coattails, but I've got no problem with that. That's great. I just finished reading Death Comes to Marlow. Really enjoyed that. There was one, Jonathan Whitelaw, The Village Hall Vendetta, The Bingo Hall Detectives. He's become my sort of cozy crime bro, and we Zoom each other. He lives in Canada, and we Zoom each other. And so I like reading his stuff as well. So those are my crime picks. Have I read anything that wasn't crime, wasn't cozy crime? I don't know that I have, and I should do. Non-fiction. Rory Stewart, wonderful man. Politics on the Edge. Not a book to relax to, a book to feel angry about, not because of Rory Stewart. And then I do tend to reread, and I reread every year. I have a few books I reread. Tove Jansson, Moomin Valley in November is one of the wisest books about grief and loss you can read. It's beautiful. And of course, Agatha Christie. I always reread her, and I've just finished rereading Murder on the Orient Express, which is my favorite Christmas read.
Tove Jansson, I think, is one of my favorite authors.
Yeah. And I mean, I do like her books for adults, but it's the Moomins, because they are adult books for children. Which is your favorite Moomin book, would you say?
Oh, there's a good question.
That's one you should ask everyone. What Moomin?
What's your favorite Moomin book? Oh, what Moomin are you?
No, actually, because there's only a few. I think I'm more like the Philly Yonk, that one who's obsessed with housework.
I'd be Little My.
Yeah.
Causing chaos everywhere.
Yes. Oh, Little My.
Yeah.
Little My. I mean, I love all of them. I particularly like Moomin Valley in November, Moomin Land Midwinter. And then there's one where they all end up on a floating theatre. I love that one as well, Moomin Summer Madness.
Is there one where they go to like Monaco or somewhere? That's a good one.
Monaco?
Well, it's not Monaco, but they're like, it might be the Moomin Summer Madness. There's one and they're like in a casino at some point, I think, or...
Okay. I'll have to recheck my Moomins because I can't remember that one.
I might have just invented that one.
Well, I think it should be written. I think it should be written. The Moomins hit Monaco.
Yeah, it's like a Muppets.
What's your favourite read this year been, Kaz?
My favourite read of the year so far is The Maiden by Kate Foster.
I don't know anything about that. I will check that one out. Can you give me a little premise of it?
Yeah, it's probably not cozy crime. It won the McIlvenney Prize. No, it didn't. It won the debut prize in Scotland, Bloody Scotland.
I was at Bloody Scotland.
Yeah, it was a debut prize winner.
I know the book because I saw her being interviewed about it.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good pick. Yeah. And she was so nice. And the other one who won the other debut prize, the lad, and he was there with his wife and his little baby, and it was such a lovely family unit. So yeah.
tend to, for Bloody Scotland, interview the McIlvenny debut shortlisted authors in the run-up in our
Right.
group. So we always...
Okay. Yeah. Bloody Scotland was wonderful. I loved it. It was an absolute hoot. And that I think that's something else I'd not done this year before. Crime festivals. And I did 3 this year. So yeah.
Oh, which other ones did you go to?
I did Crime Fest in Bristol, and then I did one called The Dark Side of Brighton. Never been to Brighton before. What a wonderful place. But no disrespect to the others, but Bloody Scotland were my favourite because we do a cabaret night, and I got to do my performance. We do in Leeds. We do this thing called pub theatre, where people write these short little plays, and we have an evening of 10 short plays. And I'd written one because I know loads of actors. And the thing is with actors, there's this kind of hierarchy of acting jobs. And you sort of go down a bit and you get like a bit part on Emmerdale, and you go down a bit further and you get to do role play for the West Yorkshire Police. And you go down a bit further and you get to do like a public safety video. But then the bottom layer of actordom is being an elf at the Tongue Garden Centre. So there's this monologue about this lad who was top of his class at drama school, and he was Macbeth, and he was wonderful, and he'd moved to be with his girlfriend, and she'd run out on him, and he was ending up being an elf at the Tongue Garden Centre. And I got to share that with the world at Bloody Scotland, so that was great.
Is there anything worse than being an elf at Tongue Garden Centre?
No, because the thing with me, with young children, I can control them. If I'm in the class and they're sort of messing about, it's like, you can't do that in the garden centre where mum and dad are there. You've got no control. You are powerless. No, so it's not.
That sounds brilliant. I really want to go to Bloody Scotland, basically because they have the torchlit procession, don't they, at the...
Yeah, and that was amazing. That was absolutely wonderful. And that was where I met Orlando Murray, who wrote Knife Skill for Beginners, and such a lovely man. So if you do anything next year, everyone, please check out Knife Skills for Beginners, because I loved it. It was a great book.
So Sarah's agreeing with you. She's saying it's an excellent read.
Good. I think it's because I read it and I was watching Bake Off at the same time. Because
what perfect combo.
So what? Yeah, absolutely. It was really good.
Do you predominantly, so if you read crime, I know you get given lots of proofs and things, do you predominantly sort of stick to cozy crime, or do you kind of enjoy darker stuff? But
I like that. Right. Okay. This is going to be my controversial bit, everybody. So hold tight here. If I read a novel, a crime novel about an inner city police station with drugs and those incident room boards and dark things and crime syndicates, that is a world that can't touch me. I actually find that cozy because it's safe. I read something like Jonathan Whitelaw's book about this mother-in-law and son-in-law living in Penrith. And you read that and you read about older people and people fearing getting old and being robbed and this, that, and the other. That isn't cozy to me because that could actually touch me. So I do get sent predominantly cozy crime, but I don't find it so cozy. But I do get sent other crime as well. And I do tend to just read the things I've been given because that sort of takes up all my reading space, really. I'm trying to think, is there stuff I've read I haven't been given? No. I mean, I don't know about you, Kaz, but like when I'm teaching, I'm like, can't read. But this year, I must have read about 15, 20 books, which is massive for me. And I want to read 40 books next year, 50.
Always good to be ambitious.
Absolutely.
I read constantly. It's my downtime from teaching.
And I think it is so good because I find when you're downtime, you tend to sort of get your phone, you start looking at YouTube and clips from the Golden Girls and what Carol Vorderman's saying on Twitter. Great respect, love Carol Vorderman. And it keeps your mind at this superficial level and it stops you from really engaging. I think to engage in a book, you have to really subvert yourself and just lose yourself to it. And it's about saying, I don't matter. What matters is this story. And sometimes that's easier than others. Yeah. Another. Sorry, go on.
Because we're nearly out of time, but I wanted to pick up on what you were saying about the cozy stuff not being that cozy, because you had this perfect sentence in your book about that, about there being like an ordinary evil.
Oh, totally. To me, the evil I have seen has been ordinary. It's been believable. We tend to think evil is Dick Dastardly going, ha, 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 and twirling his moustache and using, a thing of dynamite. Evil is somebody helping themselves to a pack of photocopy paper. Or, do you know what? And just taking some highlighters. Or having a day off because they want to, they've got the builder coming. Evil is when you do wrong, but you don't particularly feel bad about it. And I think evil is a slope and it goes all the way down to sort of murder, burglary, etc. But it starts at that and it's very ordinary. And when I've seen people, I've come across people in school, as you will, stories, parents who have done appalling things, and yet, they're ordinary people. We like to think there's a sort of a black cartoon side to them that keeps them all the way over there, but there isn't. And that's the frightening thing to me. That's why cozy crime is more disturbing than some, mad arsonist or something.
We have 2 minutes left.
2 minutes. Oh, I know. It's gone like that. It's been brilliant. Thank you, everybody. Sorry.
Give people a recap of your books so they know what they're off
to. Okay. All right. Okay. But also The Dog Sitter Detective by Anthony Johnson. I've just read that and I loved it. I read it on a plane and went all the way through it. Okay. Book 1, A Spoonful of Murder, when Topsy, the nursery nurse, is found dead at home, having talked about somebody going to kill her. Book 2, A Pen Dipped in Poison. Anonymous letters start popping up all over this uber primary academy. Sorry, everyone, I'm not a fan of the academy system. Book number 3, A Clock Stopped Dead, is this woman goes into a mysterious charity shop. When she goes back the next day, the shop has gone. Book number 4 I'm working on now. It hasn't got a title, but somebody is found dead in a holiday cottage and the wall's been painted yellow. That's that one. And Trust on Radio 4, starring the wonderful Julie Hesmondhalgh, who seriously is the nicest, she's absolutely as nice as she appears. Ex of Coronation Street, wonderful. And she does the audiobooks for the novels and she just bumps it right up to that next level. So big shout out to Julie Hesmondhalgh as well.
Awesome. And we're going to finish off with this comment from, I think it's Donna, who said this has been exactly as much fun as I expected it to be.
Oh, great.
Much loved every moment.
Donna, thank you so much. I think we've had a lovely Friday night together. And I have to tell you, when I came on, I was feeling really ropey with the end, like a real school cold, Kaz, it was that sort of thing you struggle through. I was feeling really ropey, but I've perked right up now. I might even write some Christmas cards.
Brilliant. Glad we've done that. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for your time, everyone. See you later and happy Christmas.